I don't find the paramecium creepy. I think they're cute. They're cute little graceful little cuties. Okay, to Gary, I have a bunch of notes, so I'll try to do this quickly. You seem to, Gary, you seem to get the issue about first-person awareness, which I appreciate, because some people are just like, oh, there's none of that. So, okay, you get the question. We both get the fact that it's not necessarily a beautiful thing. If insects have awareness, then it could be they get their guts eaten out and all this kind of terrible stuff. They don't have pain neurons, so whatever kind of sense of pain they have is at least different. It's probably less sharp, but it doesn't really make it any better. On the other hand, I think having such a diminished intellect might actually make some of the emotional angst of such a situation less. What I just realized from this note, I think I got what you said confused with what Great Text said. Isn't that ironic? But I think it's interesting where you're using these examples of parts of your own actions which are not conscious. But to me, that reinforces the possibility that the intentionality, I'm reading my note now, the execution of your will, which is what your intentionality is, relies on the will of other things because you're not noticing them. I think something's probably noticing when it's doing an intentional act. You know, not just rolling down a hill, but expressing, you know, neuronal excitement, for example. So isn't that what the neurologists say? It's getting excited, those parts of the brain that you aren't feeling right then. Your consciousness is separate from those, and yours is made of some of those, is the idea. I don't find the paramecium creepy. I think they're cute. They're cute little graceful little cuties. And they look pretty complex to me. So we'll see if I have the energy to put in a few pictures of their complexity. I've showed videos of them doing things more complicated than just bumping into a wall. And you can easily find them. You can find white blood cells chasing bacteria. They look like little animals. Little tiny microzoa. Nothing unliving in the universe can do what they do. It is a significant discrimination. I mean, you find a lot more things important of lesser distinction than the difference between a living and unliving system. You guys are just knocking down the quality of living systems in essence by saying, well, no, they're just like a pile of dirt that just wiggles different. No. They look pretty complex to me, okay? That's all I'm saying. Now, granted, you know, just typing is more complicated. Well, yet just typing requires trillions of these cells. You are obviously a compound system yourself of these cells. So I'd expect it to be a new dimension of complexity. Just typing is something simple for us that shows tremendous complexity. No protozoa is going to just type. I'm saying that they eat, so they probably get hungry. You know, they have to clean out their system, so they're probably uncomfortable when it's not clean, and things like that. How could that happen? Well, they have this microtube network that all kinds of messages shoot along, that moves everything around. That's how. I could be wrong, but that's how. So my point is, if they knock you out and your consciousness goes out, I can still look in your blood and find a white blood cell chasing a bacterium. Okay? So that's unrelated. It's not one of your neurons. Now, would I find if your neurons are conscious or not in that situation? Aware, I told Great Text I'd use. Aware. Because you guys are on the same side of this. Aware. I don't know if your neuron's aware when you get knocked out. Maybe you get knocked out by the neuron getting knocked out. But I don't think the white blood cells in your body are knocked out. The muscle cells aren't knocked out. So and some of the neurons are not knocked out because you still have your lizard brain or whatever. think that emotions, like all the broad spectrum of pain emotions you were talking about, for example, hunger, any of those, I don't think those are the complex, ethereal human emotions. Those are the things that everything has. Those are the cheap thing. Feeling good, feeling bad, having a feeling of hunger, having an urge. Those kinds of experiences seem how an animal of any intelligence, however limited, can be motivated. I made this complaint a lot. I don't see microorganisms like high-tech robots in the sense they're going beep 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 and salinity boom 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 7.5 right now. I don't think they're just rocks rolling down a hill either. I think they're going, oh, I'm thirsty. That's the feeling. That then, does it feel like a human feeling? No. And that's why the awareness word or the consciousness word becomes important, because what word can I convey the fact that there is a sense, a non-verbal sense of something? They look like they have it. How could they? I don't know how we could. That's why I'm asking the question. I don't know how we could. So yeah, I don't know how they could. Maybe if they're simpler, so maybe if we could figure out how they could, we'd figure out how we could. Okay. And I think a lot of people, and maybe not you, but you did bring this up, keep coming back to pain sensations, kind of hung up, not in a bad way, but just sort of focused on this pain sensation. I've said all along for years that that requires pain neurons, are what's familiar to us as shark pain. Gary made a bigger picture argument that you're talking about all the stuff. Well, I mean, the big umbrella of pain, like dissatisfaction, yeah, I'm saying the single-celled life forms have some of that. Plants have that. They have stress. They have slow-acting, less sharp pain-like reactions to conditions that their bodies or systems are designed to detect as an undesirable condition, obviously, hopefully prior to death, so that something can be done about it. Because things can be done about your situation, which is why this relates to will. Yeah, I'm going to put in some videos, some pictures of the complexity of paramecium, because you guys, it seems like you haven't even gone on YouTube and looked up microscopic pictures of the protozoa and stuff, because it looks like microscopic animals. Maybe we should get a video and discuss it. So the whole theaters don't come cheap thing, I'm thinking this kind of theater comes cheap. A high quality one with three-dimensional vision and three-dimensional sound and smell that could be better than it is if we used it more, and a network of touch sensation all over the skin of seemingly the whole body. It's not going to be as complex. That kind of theater is expensive. Just a little one that goes, sugar makes me feel like I'm not hungry anymore. Water makes me feel like I'm not thirsty. Vacating the vacuole makes me feel a little bit fresher. It seems like the simple-minded way. And we see these animals that are obviously simple-minded, so I'm going, I don't think emotions are the things that humans have all to themselves. I think all these creatures have these little emotions, because that's the easy way. It's just like, feel hungry. The machine goes chunk, 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 and does that stimulus reaction to that one stimulus of the so-called emotion. It goes, does a complex reaction. That's how you make that simple. It seems to me like a good theory, anyway. So I maintain, I see where you're coming from, and again, I think Graytek said something similar, but maybe I'm getting confused, but I say consciousness happens in little bits all over the universe, because life, or all over the planet, because life is spread all over the planet. And it happens in bigger bits all over the planet, in us and other mammals. And so I'm saying it's all over. So I'm not making it special. Now, you think I'm trying to make the universe special, but I don't think so. I'm with you on the fact that, like, if everything was conscious, it's just a mental exercise. This is, for example, the purpose of it. If everything had some sort of consciousness, but not the same consciousness, not a rock that's thinking it's a human locked in there, but just some little consciousness, and it goes, oh, I'm warm, oh, I'm cold. And it doesn't mind being cold. It's just like, oh, I feel cold. It doesn't have a pain, a cold pain neuron. But it somehow was feeling that, which I don't believe. I believe it's just for life. But if that was the case, that doesn't make the universe more splendid. It means that, what? You can be born as a rock and just sit there for billions of years? That doesn't sound great. It's like an excruciation of boredom. Maybe you couldn't literally be tortured, but to be aware, it'd be like being in a coma. Whatever consciousness you had, however little, it'd be like being in a coma or something. But you know you were in a coma. I don't even know, because I don't believe that. I believe the little creatures have it, though. This is like the abacus deal, where you're like, well, does an abacus have a consciousness? Is it aware? An abacus doesn't compute on its own. Okay, this is the thermostat thing all over again. Okay, there is a difference between an abacus and a paramecium. Nobody ever, when people discovered paramecium, they didn't go, hey, look, we have these, they're from Japan, it's an abacus. Is that where the abacus is from? It senses light through the cilia, it senses pressure through cilia, it brings chemicals in and out of it, it reacts to them, it has a digestive system, it has a purification system. You know, it can basically smell by taking little proteins in and out. These are means of sensation. You said it has to have a means of sensation. Oh, and it has to be able to reproduce itself. Software can reproduce itself. Oh, but not that way, or what? Just narrow in on what you mean it can reproduce itself, because those words can be interpreted such that software can reproduce itself. I can write a software that does nothing but reproduce itself. It will not act like a living creature. Viruses do not act like living creatures. They act like cluster bombs. And I'll point out, too, that I mentioned that these microtubules are distributed. It's also used as the skeleton. It's used as the sense. It's used as the motor when those paramecium are bending around. They're moving the microtubules in there. And so it's a distributed way. The brain is in the whole cell, if that is acting as the brain. But I will point out that they all stem out from the nucleus. They're all centralized. There is a central hub in the network, the nucleus. So, you and I and plants and stress, I mean, this is, biologists use this language about plant stress and stress hormones in plants and what plants do as a result of that. And that's the kind of pain I would see a plant having, or even probably a paramecium, is that the pain would be just a dull reaction to the new condition, and maybe trying to flee to another place, or start eating a certain kind of protein, try to seek out some certain kind of protein through the endocytotic system or whatever that can absorb these chemicals in the environment. And I think paramecium are really complex. I think they are really complex. There's just, you know, there's on the order as many microtubules as there are neurons, and you know, it's clearly involved with this transport and organization. The willful part, the moving and sensing and regulation of the system all seem very, very much involved with the microtubule system. I find that interesting. Okay, I don't see anything better than that to tell me where this is all coming from. See, if I looked at little tiny life forms and they didn't have that kind of behavior, paramecium just floated around, things just accidentally floated in, then I'd buy all that. But they look like they're moving around. I mean, they're named after, you know, the idea that they look like they're behaving like an animal. So we go back and forth on the willpower thing. And my deal, and I talked about the DNA as the Bible to the paramecium or the cell. And I believe that. And I believe that you can be indoctrinated and whatnot. And there's an implication there about a lack of free will. But it's weird. It's like lack of free will by choice. And what I maintain is, like Christians, for example, maintain their free will. They're supposed to just do exactly what the Bible says. But they maintain their free will in part by choosing which parts of the Bible to read. Okay, so that's the little window, I think, that even if we have to follow the Bible like the DNA, you could choose which parts to read and make well-born.